Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another stock market outlook video brought to you by DeepView. As always, we're going to talk about the market indexes, leading groups and themes, and of course run through a ton of stocks. I've got about, I think 45, a list of 45 that we're going to go through here, talk through their charts. What is their trend? Are they buyable at this point? Or do you have to wait a little bit and stalk it to wait for it to set up? So definitely going to be a great video. Make sure you watch until the end. And if you do find this helpful, please go ahead and take the time right now to leave it a like down below. Really helps me out and my channel. And of course, subscribe if you want to see more videos just like this one. So that's pretty much it. But before we actually dive in, I do want to mention a free resource that we recently put out. It's really, really good. This is Oliver Kell's Price Cycle Mastery. We worked with him to basically create a free model book as well as kind of email course where it basically teaches his price cycle system. And this is the model book here. I've got it open. This goes through the steps of his market cycle, which basically describes the life cycle and trend of a stock and intermediate steps along the way. It's what I use personally to kind of interpret price action, and learning it has really clarified, when I look at a chart, where are we in the trend? What can I expect next? Is there going to be an expansion, consolidation? Are we extended in a trend? All of this is kind of answered using this system. It's a great framework and blueprint to interpret price action. And we also go through a ton of different examples, annotated charts of, big winners from the past few years, using this kind of system to show you the entry points, exit points, all of that along the way. So highly recommend this. It's 100% free. All you have to do is visit traderline.com/pricecyclemastery. And the link will also be down below in the description. Enter your information and we'll send you the model book right away, as well as get you started with the free course, which teaches and adds more to the information already in the model book. So definitely check that out if you're interested in it. All right. So with that said, let's start with the market indexes. First, looking at the QQQ, taking a step back, we're above a rising 21, 50, and 200-day moving average. We're in an uptrend on those time frames. We're making new highs. Basically, there's no real bearish argument at this point, except potentially that, we've come pretty far from this November move. But it's clear that we're in an uptrend on all those time frames. We saw expansion Friday. So even though we might get some pullback or consolidation, right now we're in an uptrend. You can keep it as simple as that. And, just looking at that point, you can say, hey, we're in an uptrend. It's okay to be trading long, swing trading, taking shots on, high potential, low risk entry points in strong stocks. So that's about as simple as you can keep it. And I say this before, I've said this many times before, if I only had to use one moving average, it would be this purple one here, the 21 EMA, just because it does a great job of capturing, the intermediate term trends. The 50 SMA is a little bit lagging. It's great for more longer term position traders. Investors might focus on the 200-day moving average, but for my time frame, and I think for a lot of great swing traders, position traders time frames, that 21 EMA does a really great job of when we get above that, close near it or above it, that kind of starts the cycle. And then, when we close below it for more than a few days, here it turned off and we were below a declining 21 EMA in the short term, but we popped right back through, restarted a market cycle. And it does a great job. The QQQ and also growth stocks in general does this 21 EMA does a great job of containing that trend. You can see we found support in these areas multiple times along this journey. So just a quick aside on how to use that 21 EMA, and as simple as that, we're in an uptrend on that time frame. Looking at IWO, this is more smaller caps. So it gives you a sense of not just what the mega caps are doing, but what a broader range of stocks of smaller capitalization are doing. And we're basically, again, in an uptrend above all the moving averages. We're just kind of moving from this base. We kind of broke through that early last week on Monday. This is a good sign. Participation is pretty broad, and it's good to see the small caps going along with those mega caps. So in terms of the indexes, we're in an uptrend. Don't need to overthink it too much above that. Small caps have just come out of this consolidation and, could start a trend like we saw earlier here, as long as we remain above that 21 EMA. You can use that 21 EMA as your guide. I think it's a great blueprint. If you're looking for just one, indicator, this is the one that I would have on my charts. So with that said, and you can also see, breadth, it matters more at the extremes during corrections as we get low here, around 15 to 20 here. That's when you can start looking for a potential reversal, start of a new uptrend, and as well as the net new high lows. You can see, tapered off, got much closer to zero here, and that's really what started this move upward. And if we bring back the Qs, you can see that coincided with this move in November as well. And let me go ahead and hide that so you can actually see those dates. So with that said, let's talk now about the themes that are strongest in the market right now. AI, semis, that goes without saying, those have been the strongest. Biotech continues to perform really, really well. Crypto, blockchain, that is a big theme as of this moment. And then also there's kind of some smaller ones. Online retail has been really, really good. And how am I determining this? Well, first things first, I'm constantly kind of screening stocks and looking for what are the highest momentum movers of the past month, of the past 3 months. And just looking at those charts, you can see stocks within these themes that are acting together, moving together in trends, and are strong together. That's one way to identify the themes. Another way that's very complementary to that is to look at sector and theme ETFs. And that's what I've set up in my dashboard here. By the way, this is my market monitor dashboard. I talked a little bit about it last video, but basically I've got, the chart, breadth down here, the key indexes. I actually clicked holdings of one of them here. I can X that out here. But basically I got the indexes up here, and then I've got these thematic ETFs here. And maybe I'll release the list of this that I have set up so you can copy this and make it your own. But basically I've got a list of ETFs from different themes, and just sorting at the end of the week by 5-day percent change, or of course, if it was a 4-day week, do by that. You can see what was strongest that week. And we've got TNA, which is the leverage small caps. We've got ARKW. We've got XBI, which is biotech. This one I thought was interesting. This is e-commerce retail, or maybe just retail here. Semis, of course, ARKF, blockchain, ARK. So just, based on sorting by 5-day percent change, you can see what was strongest that week. And these themes, when they, first appear, they don't just, rotate right away and there's never going to be a constant theme. Of course, in choppier markets, there's going to be more rotation, but we've seen, these ETFs near the top of, this leaderboard here, really since the start of November. And when you spot this early, these trends, hey, XBI is doing really well this week. SMH is, perking up. The first time you see that, then you want to go and look and make sure you take a look at stocks within that theme that are potentially leading, setting up, breaking out of bases, forming tight areas. And that's how you can stay on top of the leading themes and the leading stocks within those leading themes. So a simple sort by that 5-day percent change, that's great. At the end of a single day, I sort that by percent change from open, daily closing range, percent change today. And that gives me a sense of on that day, what was strongest, and that gives you a sense of what's leading, on a smaller time frame basis, what's just starting to work, so you can catch those themes even that much earlier. But definitely if you're, working all day, you can't stay on top of themes, every minute of every day. At the end of the week, a simple sort by that 5-day percent change is really a great way to stay on top of what are the market leaders and what are the themes that they are a part of. So just in summary, again, smaller caps moving. We've got biotech, we've got retail working, we've got semis and AI, of course, blockchain. Those are the key themes to be focused on, and kind of software as a whole as well is doing quite well. So with that covered, we've now talked about market indexes, we've talked about themes and how to track them. Let's now dive into a whole bunch of charts here and give you my take on them. So this is my wide list. From this wide list, I then kind of narrow it down to on that week, if I'm looking to add exposure, if I'm not already, completely invested, what are my top ideas that could be setting up very imminently within the next few days? So I go from that 40 or so list, and this can be, bigger, smaller, depending on market conditions. But I go from this list to a weekly focus list of about 10 names, 10, 15 names or so. And then every day I have a daily focus list, which is about 3 stocks what do I want to potentially buy. I've got it planned out. I know how much I'm going to buy, what's my entry, what's my exit, what's the most actionable stocks of that day. So that's kind of how I funnel through my ideas to keep it very organized and focused on the best of the best setups and opportunities. So with that aside, let's go ahead and dive right in. And we've got this sorted by absolute strength 1 month. Let's go ahead and sort that again just to show you. So we're starting with the highest momentum movers at the top to lowest momentum movers. And all of these are pretty much very strong stocks, except when you get to the bottom here, you've got a few that have been consolidating, pulling back, etc. So starting with the top, we've got ACMR. Let's load that up and let's open this up just to show a little bit more chart. This is a semi-related name. And actually, let me go ahead and open it up to here just so you can see the theme that's a part of it. And again, you can see the leading themes that I'm focused on. Insurance also has been one that, isn't a traditional growth area, but those stocks have been acting well. Financial services as well. But yeah, that's just an aside. So ACMR, semiconductor related stock, big breakout on earnings, follow through, and now you're just waiting for a setup to emerge. Traditional consolidation. Let that, let the stock pull back a little bit through time or price, and just set up a tight area that you can trade off of. Unless you caught it on that first day, then you've got a really nice gain in a stock that's just breaking out of a nice base in a longer term uptrend. So that's ACMR, very strong stock. I'll be keeping an eye on this one to see if it presents a 3 weeks tight, some type of pullback to a key moving average. CLSK, this is kind of a crypto performance enhancer, more of a swing trade type name. And that's really apparent here, where we had a really nice breakout up about 23% that day, then a gap up, and then a poor close, and then it's kind of completely given it back. Coin, which is also in this theme, is going to be a lot more consistent. It's going to have those moves and it's going to have pullbacks for sure, but it's not going to be quite as volatile as this one. This isn't for the faint of heart. This is more, day trade, quick swing trades. And it's pulling back in 21 EMA, found support there and kind of rebroke out through this inside day high. So just watching to see if it can actually start sustaining a trend. But it did pull back very, very hard after this nice move up. ARM, you've got this big move on earnings, now forming a consolidation. It managed to push through this pivot finally. I'm watching this area as well, but ideally we get, a pullback into that 10 EMA again, into this pivot confluence here. That would be great for a risk reward, manage risk versus that swing low as it pushes back up off of here, but definitely a strong stock in the right theme, huge volume coming in. And this is pre-lockup, so a lot of the shares are kind of restrained from selling, so that kind of creates an environment where we could have really monster moves, and it already has had one, but just on watch to see if there'll be another. MSTR, this broke out the same day as CLSK. Those themes, as I mentioned, blockchain, really powerful, great move from this tight day, breakout day here, and now just extended and trending, but very strong move from this inside day, breaking out of this kind of pseudo cup and handle. But you don't really have to know what that's called or even recognize that pattern. Just look for strength, consolidation, and tightness, breakout. That's what we're looking for. Overall consolidation, strength off the bottom of that consolidation, suggesting accumulation, then tightening, pullback, tight, boom, and there we go. That's what we're looking for. Manage risk versus that swing low or that low of the day if you caught that early. And just ride it, sell into strength if you need to. And this all depends based on whether you're a swing trader, position trader, how you're going to handle the trade after you've got that cushion. But once you've got that cushion, you have options to sell a little bit, hold for a bigger move, or just look to sell into strength and keep that equity curve right near highs. SMCI, obviously we all know the super strong move here. Now we had a very strong reversal. Let's see how far down this was, about 37%. Pop back up, consolidation, getting tight. Sorry, I keep saying tight, but pushing through this high here off the 10 EMA, and it did get included in the S&P 500. So I think it was in around 1,000 in after hours. So we'll see if that's a catalyst for next week. that could be a tradable opportunity. Make sure you find a way to manage risk. That's the most important thing. Do not enter a stock unless you have a way to manage risk tightly. And it also has to be logical at ideally a logical technical level, a moving average, a prior pivot. Basically you need a measure to determine whether your setup or entry tactic is holding. And if it's not, you should exit that position with a very small loss. So keep an eye on this for a gap and go. I have no idea where this will be 2 weeks from now. This could be at 1500. This could be all the way down here, back in the 600s. But we'll just have to see what happens and just know, basically, is this a type of trade that you should be involved in? Are you a trader who excels in these high volatile names, especially when it gets more choppy here after a nice sustained trend? Or are you looking for, a medium volatile name, which can trend a little bit more cleanly? It's up to you to determine what works best for your trading style and time frame. Moving on, we've got CELH. This had a really nice move from a base. Also broke out through this high, could manage risk at this low as it pushed back through here after earnings. A little bit volatile this day, but just watching for tightness to form. You've got power off the bottom, and then we're just looking for consolidation, ideally letting the moving averages catch up to that price. But this continues to perform really well in terms of fundamentals. Great triple-digit growth in terms of earnings and sales, essentially bring that up. And yeah, you can see huge growth, nice EPS surprise as well. Not too big, but decent, and also really, really strong sales growth. So that is CLH, and let's actually keep that on here. Next up, we've got Coin. This is definitely on watch for next week. We've got a power move up. We had an early entry here. You can manage risk at this prior level, as well as this kind of reversal. Really nice expansion upwards, and now it's gone tight for a few days. Volume trickling down the past 2 days, a little bit high still these days, but to me, this still looks like it's being accumulated. We've got a longer term uptrend, really nice prior trend, base, power up the side of the base, consolidation, pulling back into the 10 EMA here, and then expansion upwards, and now we've got another contraction. This will be a level on watch as well if it pulls back, but we'll see how this resolves next week. App, this is a recent earnings gap mover. We had the power move up, then a little bit of a sloppy consolidation here, did close out really well, still forming kind of higher lows, and got back through the HVC after pulling back below it, and now just making new highs. So nice action, actionable on this day after the expectation that it continue lower from this day. It undercut the HVC. It tried to push lower. Instead, we closed strong and then followed through the next day. CFLT still within this consolidation, just barely. Good action this day and this day, and pull back nicely to that HVC on this day. A really tight day on very low volume, and now we've got the start of some expansion upwards. HIMS earnings gap now forming a tight flag, watching for expansion upwards after it contracts. Ideally, we've got maybe a shakeout day, maybe let's that 10 EMA catch up again, but we'll see what happens with this name. Again, bringing up the stats table, really nice growth and EPS surprise and good sales growth as well. Moving on, we've got Hood. This isn't actionable anymore. It's just kind of trending, but we had a nice gap up on earnings, tight day, move up, tightness a little bit, and then expansion upwards once again. And now it's just trending above those moving averages. PLTR, this has been choppy recently. It's back at this kind of key pivot around 25. Ideally, we pull back for a few days, let that 10 EMA catch up to price, and then expand to the upside. It's been a little bit choppy, even though it has been pushing upwards, but it was also actionable back here. We've got this kind of, very short-term island reversal type action, 3 tight days forming a range, and then we broke out through this kind of pivot here. AI, I noticed the more speculative kind of smaller cap AI names have really exploded. I think BBAI is another one, CXAI, another one as well. This one had a gap up on earnings. Let's take a look at what those were like. You can see there's EPS surprise, even though it was down, and we're seeing decelerating growth here. Sales growth, a little bit of a surprise as well. But, we've got a EPS reaction, tight day here. I don't like that's kind of in the bottom half of this bar, but we'll see how this kind of forms out and potentially starts a new uptrend and begins trending above the moving averages. This is one that can really go when it's trading with momentum. Moving on, we've got Dell. This was another earnings gap, very strong, huge volume coming in. Not sure what the catalyst was. If you know in the comments, let me know. And you can see if we bring up the stats table that we had a nice EPS surprise as well, which kind of created this closed mid bar. And now we'll just see if it can tighten up in the coming days and weeks. Frog, we had an EPS gap. This is IPO kind of rounding, moving off the bottom after its first longer term base. And we've got a kind of clear pivot right near 45. Just tried to push through that on Friday, but compressing, tight days, lower volume against that 10 EMA, watching for expansion to the upside and a continuation of this nice trend. Medpace pulling back into the 10 EMA, tightening up here, watching for expansion to the upside after we already got here, and now it's tightened somewhat. Could certainly, pull back and continue to pull back, and meet with the 21 EMA, which it has shown respect for in the past. This area as well, and we'll just see whether it can continue to trend and push up. But I really like the expansion upwards from MEDP. Pega, nice move up, consolidation, pulling into the 10 EMA, move up on Friday. We'll see if that can continue into the next few weeks. PSTG, nice move on earnings, expanding up and now watching for that tightness and contraction. Shake Shack moving up from a prior expansion upwards. You can see the type of contraction we're looking for after these type of names. CRSP, this is a biotech name. A lot of the CRISPR related ones, there's a few stocks that use this technology. I think NTLA is another one that recently pushed up. I noticed that they are kind of moving together and starting to trend. So this is on watch. We've had an expansion up from the bottom of the space and now just watching for tightness and a tradable area to form here. Ideally, lets that 21 EMA kind of catch up to price, gets really tight, volume, pulls in, and then we see expansion upwards through a tradable pivot. That's the ideal setup there. Duolingo, really nice earnings gap, good close, good volume as well. Tight day the next day on Friday, and just watching to see how this develops. But I really like the story here. You can see accelerating earnings. This is one of the really cool things about DeFi. When we see acceleration in growth, you can see it's going from 23%, 80%, 121%. We're seeing accelerating growth these 3 quarters. We underline that in blue, and then again we've got acceleration for at least 2 quarters, 113%, then 174%. So we highlight that in blue, and you can see the estimate is really, really big for the next quarter as well. And you saw acceleration back here in sales growth as well. So this is a really fast growing company, another IPO kind of making the turn upwards. Moving on, we've got a company that I'm sure nobody's heard of. We've got NVIDIA just trending, really nice action late last week, and just watching to see if it can sustain this trend. It will revisit the 21. It will revisit the 50 at some point. It will form a new base at some point. And right now it's just kind of in its expansion phase, just really nice trend, very strong action, and we'll see if it can fall through on this bar next week. FRPT, recent earnings gap, now consolidating a little bit, something to watch if you're into this type of name. Looking at this, I think, it's like a Chewy. It's related to pets. Definitely a theme worth taking a look at. Maybe not a leading theme, but something worth considering. We've got Lyft. Uber is the leader here, but this has been showing good action, really nice move after earnings. Now it's pulling back, forming a little bit of a mini base, and we'll see if it can kind of form a U-turn. It's right up against this area, which is potential support, and trying to form out a range. A little bit choppy here. You can see it try to go, pull back in. So we'll see if it can kind of really sustain something and push up with volume. OCTA, recent earnings gapper, really tight day Friday as well. Definitely something to watch. You can see expectation of acceleration, really good growth numbers here. Nothing much more to say. Software name, cybersecurity, believe this is related to that as well. That's been a really strong theme, and basically really strong earnings gap on looks like the largest volume in quite some time, going back all the way to June of 2023. Oscar Health, very nice action, just continuing to form a pattern of move up, expansion, contraction into the moving average, the 21 EMA, move up, pull back, move up, pull back. And again, we've got to pull back into that 21 EMA. So we'll see if we can emerge from this flag that's been forming. And you've got this pivot as well. Looking at this, I'd also just kind of use, last week's high here or Friday's high here as a potential pivot. And you've got a DTL that you can draw from these highs right here. That's right at this current moment. Moving on, we've got Toast just moving up the right-hand side. Not really actionable at this point, just kind of trending. TripAdvisor, really tight action into the 10 EMA. Already well within this trend, but we are at a really nice weekly level if we go back in time. So we'll see if we can push out of this kind of longer term, you can call this cup and handle. And let's just throw on the weekly chart. A lot of these stocks in the theme are acting well, and this basically could restart a new stage 2 uptrend, and kind of started that already with this earnings gap, but now just consolidating at a logical resistance supply zone. So we'll see how that acts in the coming days and weeks. ALT earnings coming up. I believe this is related to weight loss, diabetes type thing. Yep, this is NASH. So this theme is also something to take a look at. There's a lot of stocks moving on this type of news. I believe VKTX last week. So this is in a related field. We've got earnings upcoming on the 5th. Really strong chart. This is a lower price stock, so keep that in mind. This is going to be more speculative, more suited for swing trading, that type of thing, and for traders who are experienced and know how to handle and position size and manage risk in these type of names. But we've got expansion off the bottom, now kind of pulling back in to this base high pretty much. So watching for it to form a range and basically a tradable area from this point. But figured I'd highlight this just because the theme is that strong at this moment. Axon, good action after earnings, just kind of watching for contraction here. Net forming a little bit of a short-term base. We've got a pivot right near 100, 101 here. We've got the earnings gap, anchored VWAP up above as well. We'll see if we can push higher, but really nice growth numbers from this name, which is trying to turn the corner and restart a stage 2 uptrend. NetApp, huge earnings gap, not the best close, but we'll see how it acts in the coming days and weeks. Uber just trending really nicely, stronger than Lyft in the longer, in the intermediate term for sure. And it's just kind of trending. It's been a really nice stock, really since the middle of or April of 2023. Really strong trend, and just coming out of another short-term consolidation. TDD again starting to trying to reassert a new longer-term uptrend. We had the earnings gap. Now it's consolidating here, forming a pivot right at these highs. Not the greatest close on Friday, but if it does kind of a gap and go, that would be a positive expectation breaker. But it looks similar to Net. I think Net is stronger, but just want to highlight this just because it's got a decent story here. Growth isn't quite there either, but a recent earnings gap, something to watch as well. Just figured I'd highlight it for you guys. AMD, this was the stock to watch this day. Gap and go, really nice action, really nice pattern. Again, push up, longer term uptrend, consolidation under this high. Really the pivot was right here where it found resistance here as well. And then we formed a nice flag into that 21 EMA area, push off, and nice expansion upwards. Nothing much to do here if you missed it in this area. Just wait for that next pullback or low risk entry points. Kava, another IPO, kind of forming the turn here. Decent action after earnings, not really actionable, by any setup here. It would just kind of need to pull back, consolidate, but definitely a name to watch overall just because of the story. I know I've been there. I really like the food, the process. It's very similar in the model to Chipotle, and it's kind of more in that growth phase. So definitely a name to watch if you're looking for, some food retail type ideas. Deckers, I believe they also got added to the S&P 500, but just a beautiful trend here, clear leader, and acting really nicely, just respecting those moving averages. So it looks pretty good. We've got 4 here, really nice action. I believe there's kind of some acquisition type news here, but really strong action after earnings, and just watching for tightness, actionable area to forming some type of range to trade off of. VRNS, really tight into the end of the week. This is a recent earnings gap as well. We have a nice prior trend, consolidation, move up. So kind of a base on base type setup here. You've got a pivot right near kind of 51.33. NTNX expanding upwards, nothing much to say as it moved from this tighter area. Twist, biotech here, but it actually has earnings and sales. Actually, it's not profitable, but it's got sales. Just forming out this base here and watching for push off the 21 EMA and the start of a potential resumption of this trend above that moving average. IoT, this has been a choppy trader. It loves to base and just frustrate everybody. I had this from here, made some good money here, got stopped out on my last bit on this day, and now it's just kind of still chopping around forming this base. So we'll see if it can finally push out on earnings, which is on the 7th. That's the estimated date. Meta, nice action. Again, just in a beautiful trend. Pushed out Friday, acting well. Crowd, nice action since the gap down, in sympathy to the Pan W earnings. And, getting a little bit choppy in here. I could, envision this being the start of a basing process, but we'll see if it can hold that 21 EMA. That's the first test. Lastly, we've got NXT. Solar isn't the strongest theme right now, but we have seen some signs of bottoming action in ENPH. And this is right at that 21 EMA and HVC area. So we'll see if it can hold here and potentially kind of start a trend up. This is a recent IPO. All right, deep breath. We went through about 50 stocks there. Let's also take a quick look at, Apple, just because these, have a big impact on the overall market. We can see we're at a very key level here. Big reversal. We'll see if this can, start an uptrend, get back above that 21 EMA. But overall, looking at growth stocks, growth leaders, they're acting well above the moving averages, and the risk appetite is strong right now. We're seeing earnings gaps follow through. Breakouts are working, but be very careful and be very aware of those conditions and if they do change. So I would definitely recommend have certain criteria for determining the market health. That could be based on the indexes, that could be based on the action of the market leaders themselves, but have a process to determine, is this environment conducive for my style of trading? Are things trading? Are trading trending? Are things following through? Are there a lot of earnings gaps versus earnings gap downs? How are things progressing from those earnings gaps? All that kind of gives you a sense and feel of the institutional appetite for growth stocks and our style of trading. So, keep in mind that environment, be very aware of changes, both when we're in a correction and things are starting to shape up, as well as when we're trending like this current time and we're seeing market leaders start breaking down, a lot of earnings gap downs, positive news causing sell-offs, that type of thing. Be very, in tune with that. And when you start seeing those signs, that's, the signal to, take your foot off the gas a little bit. But as of right now, things look pretty good. The ultimate test is, are you making progress in your account? Are your trades, giving you positive feedback? That's the ultimate tell of if your strategy is working. And even if the market is good, if the health is good, market leaders are doing well, if you yourself are not getting good results from your trades, that's feedback in of itself that maybe even though the health of the market is good, you have to take a step back, take a look at your process, take a look at your entries, your exits, because you can certainly buy the right stocks at the wrong time, be easily stopped out, and then they turn around and go without you. So, that's happened to me in the past for sure. It happens to everybody. But, just because the market is good doesn't mean you necessarily are performing well. And that's not the worst thing in the world, because remember, there's always going to be another market cycle, another opportunity. You just want to be very in tune with how you yourself are performing in the environment. And if you're doing well, keep doing what you're doing. But if you're, getting frustrated, getting stopped out a lot of things, things aren't working, take it easy, lower your exposure, take a look at, your recent results, your recent trades, chart them up, your entries, your exits, try to see what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, and just try to make tweaks over time that, will improve your trading. This is a long game. We're trying to do this for decades. We're not in it for, the quick, doubles, triples of the count. What really is going to matter over time is if you can catch, a few good trades, during those opportune market cycles. So we want to stay in the game for decades. That's what's going to lead to that compounding of the account. For sure, there's going to be periods where we can do extremely well, but we're looking for consistency. We're looking for having a process that produces results over time. So that's enough of me on my soapbox. Hopefully you guys found this video helpful. Let me know in the comment section what you think about the market. What stocks are you focused on? What do you have your eye on next week? And please let me know if you have any other feedback, ways I can make this video better. And definitely check out the Price Cycle Mastery here. I think this is a really tremendous resource. You can learn a lot from Oliver. I certainly have, and it definitely helps me interpret market action and charts. You can flip through things very quickly, and if you know the price cycle and know what to expect next, that just gives you a great expectation and kind of a blueprint for how a stock should behave in a trend, in a downtrend, all of that. So that's pretty much it. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know if you have any questions or feedback. Leave a like down below if you did enjoy, and I'll see you guys in future videos. Take care.